Hey, how
Hey,
are
good
you,
morning.
sir?
Good.
Success.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. I should say for those who didn't log on to our practice test yesterday, that Steve and I had. I think it's fair to say we were a little technically challenged on the test run.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
We spent about an hour and a half going
Yeah,
online. I think to the great amusement
yeah,
of many listeners,
yeah.
and failing to make the slightest connection.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm getting a note from our lords and masters. Hello,
yeah,
Steve.
that's better. Yeah.
I'm getting a note from our lords and masters. I've got to use headphones, so I will. There'll be a slight pause while
Okay.
the headphones come in. You sound a bit like a Dalek, Steve. You've got a very
Okay.
sexy rasp. Like
Well, I just woke up about an hour ago, so.
what time is it? Where are you? You're in New York.
Well, I'm in Arizona. It's just after 8 o'clock in the morning here.
8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, yeah.
So here it is about. What is it? I have to check the time. It's now 8:30,
Okay.
and I've just had my first drink for 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
In order to be sufficiently fluent for you, Steve, I've cracked open a new bottle of gin that I've been saving up.
Oh, good.
There we go.
That's great. I wish I could join you. I wish I could join you.
At 8 in the morning, it's probably better you don't. Hey, hang on.
Okay.
Is this working? Okay, I've now got my headphones on, and I sound even more like a Dalek than before. You sound very good, though, Steve. You've come into
Okay.
focus,
Okay, great.
and I seem to have turned into a Dalek, but I can hear what I say anyway, so that's all right.
Yeah. You have a nice, yeah. You're looking good though, Will.
Thank you so much, Steve. That's very kind. I've just had my first hair wash for a fortnight.
Oh God.
Especially for your many Instagram followers.
I don't know.
There's a long line of people saying, "Steve, you're a legend,"
Yeah.
appearing. No one is commenting on the fact that I've washed my hair and I'm looking good.
So you're outside
Anyway,
of Delhi?
Steve. Sorry, say
You're
again.
outside. Okay, great. Yeah.
So tell me what it's like in Arizona. How come you're there? What's going on in?
Well, I was in New York about a month ago, just when the situation turned. I was in a crowded restaurant one night, and about 4 days later, all the restaurants in the city were closed. And my family's here in Arizona, and I decided to get on the first plane and hightail it back to my wife and my daughter. So
Was it a question of that if the New York restaurants are closed, there's no reason to be in New York? Or?
Well, you know, it's a situation where I kind of felt like being in those tight quarters, and you know, being in elevators in the subway and on the street, it just seemed like I needed to get some space. And I just decided. I mean, as much as I would have loved to have photographed the city in this situation, I just decided it was too much of a risk, and I wanted to live and tell another story another day.
Yes,
And
both of us are no longer the youthful figures we once were, Steve. We're suddenly in the crosshairs.
that's another point, exactly. So
We
I
are
decided,
men, and this is a very ageist. Bug.
exactly, yeah. Well, Arizona is beautiful. It's kind of wide open spaces, a lot of space. There's a park across the street. We can go and walk and run and everything. So, and yeah, just thought this would be the best place to be. Of course, and with my family here. So,
and were you more or less on the last flight out, or?
It was the flight was. There were 6 people on the flight from New York to Dallas.
Yeah.
Dallas to Tucson, there were like 4. So it was, it's one of those situations where you just wish that every flight you ever were on ever was that kind of low density, having completely empty all around you, kind of lay back and relax.
So I'm talking to you from Delhi, and I haven't left my farm for I think 5 weeks now. Partly because we can't. If we step outside, the Indian police give us a good whack with their lathis. So
Yeah, I saw that video. That was astonishing. I actually sent that around to some friends. They're not kidding. You know, those police there.
they're not kidding.
Yeah.
Incidentally, our lords and masters from Roli Books are asking, do you have a pair of headphones? I can hear you very clearly without, but they seem to think it might be better if you do. Do you have one handy?
I
If
would
not,
have
no
to.
disaster. But
I would have to go and find one. Are we?
do you have a daughter you can shout, "We are live"?
Yeah.
And we have
Well,
835 of your avid fans watching you. But
oh, yeah. I'm not sure I can get up and go out and look in the house for
well,
those headphones.
I can hear you fine, so I imagine everyone else can. So
Okay.
let's just leave it. So, Steve, let's start off just with a bit of chronology and set the scene. We've got about 45 minutes to talk, maybe half an hour of chat, and then we'll take questions. So, anyone who has questions, please start sending them in, and I'll try and accommodate them at the end. But just to kick off, so where were you? Where was your childhood, and what was your childhood like? Where did it all begin?
Well, I grew up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Very great childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, very kind of bland, and I would go play in the woods and horse around, and it was great. Nobody in my family traveled, and I never really was that curious in my early years for the rest of the world or to travel or other cultures or other people. It was only when I got a job after high school working as a mailman in a company that I started to get a curiosity about the rest of the world, and I decided to go to Europe and live there for a year, and that was really pivotal. Once I got out and started
You
seeing
got out. You got out of Philadelphia.
Yeah, I got out of Philadelphia and went to Sweden, went to live in Amsterdam, traveled around Europe. And I thought,
what date was this?
This was 1969.
Oh, when it was the right time to be alive.
Yeah, no, it was great. Amsterdam in 1969 was like the place
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
I won't ask you the details, but we'll let.
Yeah.
I grew up in the 80s and always was sort of felt I was 20 years too late, and already, the world and everything that needed to be experimented with had happened already. The Doors, the Velvet Underground, it had all been and gone by.
Inagata Davida. Yeah.
So from Amsterdam, how did you get further east? Did you just get stoned on the free hash and end up on a plane, or what happened?
Well, I after that year in Europe, I went back to college, and after 4 years, I thought, what I really want to do with my life is to travel. And in college, I found myself eventually into my main emphasis was history.
It's a dangerous way to go, Steve. Take it from me.
Thank God I decided to so I went into cinematography, and I'm not a great writer. You are, of course. One of the things about
you're very sweet, Steve.
Every book you've ever done, you've won an award. I mean, who else can say that?
You're very kind. Thank you.
But I decided that whatever I did with my life, I want to travel to be part of it. And I drifted from cinematography to still photography, because still photography it's more of a solitary endeavor. It's something you can just kind of walk out the door, and you can kind of improvise and kind of just go where you want and do what you want. There's no script, there's no post-production or pre-production.
And you did you study it formally, or did you just pick up a camera and start shooting?
I took one or two classes, fine art photography classes. I would say that most of what I learned was on my own, or looking at pictures and practicing. You got to get out there and actually do it. So, I spent years and years practicing. Went to India, and then I spent. It was only going to be a 6-week trip to India.
Did you get India immediately? I mean, you're now associated so much with the country. So many of your images from there have become iconic. Was it a place you understood instantly, or did it take a little bit of digestion to get the hang of it?
Well, I was completely overwhelmed, but it was so fascinating, and I was learning so much, every day. And I was just bouncing off the walls, going here and going there. I just wanted to consume everything. And I just, after 2 years of just doing this, I decided that I wanted to go back. I went into Afghanistan, and I decided I just wanted to go back to India. There were really important stories I wanted to work on. So I just kept going back, and the years went by.
What date are we now? 1978, 79, that kind of thing? Or?
Yeah, I spent 78, 79 in India. I went back for about 2 months, and then went back to India again for another 6 months. So I was, and then I kept going back and going back.
Incidentally, it's an impressively international fan base you've got in the comments coming up. We've got a great number of Turkish fans. We've got a Kurdish guy who's just turned up. We've got Argentinians. We've got Indians, quite a lot of Bengalis. So your work seems to be very internationally appreciated. Just got an Italian saying ciao.
Yeah, I just found in my archive, just the 3 days, and I found out I had done a lot of work in Mumbai and in Bollywood. I just found these pictures, which I posted just a couple days ago of Anil Kapoor and Sri Devi in a movie set in Bombay. And I thought, oh my God, I've never seen these pictures. I gotta post these, because it was such a throwback to another time. So.
You found these in Arizona, or they were in your New York archive?
Well, they're on my online archive. I have a.
That's very efficient of you.
Yeah, I had maybe like 50,000 pictures, which I've scanned and put on in this sort of online.
So while everyone else is kicking their heels, you can go through your old shots and edit them and work them up and discard them. Yeah,
exactly.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So you said very casually, going back to the timeline, you said very casually you went to Afghanistan. This is before the invasion. You saw Afghanistan in the golden age, before the long war began.
Right. Yeah, I went back. Going into Afghanistan was really the most probably the most important thing I did in my career, because.
But this was before the Russians, or
this was actually before the Russians, exactly.
So you did see a bit of it in peace and before the.
No, I went in. I went in after the kind of the Civil War, if you would call it that, started, and I went in with this group of Mujahideen, and we walked through the countryside. I saw these villages.
I love how casually you're saying that. You just wandered in, going for a walk in the park.
Yeah, it's a short walk in the Hindu Kush. Yeah, it was. I never photographed or covered any kind of area of conflict or civil war or whatever, and but I got hooked on the story, and I wanted to go back and keep seeing what was happening. I thought in the beginning that the war would only last for a few weeks, and kind of year after year after year, it kept changing and evolving. And I still go back. Last I was back there just a couple of years ago, but now it's become so much more dangerous in the sense that you can get kidnapped or you can be taken hostage or terrible things. Yeah, I mean, you've been there, Herod. You had that incident and getting shot at and all that.
Yes, we had a
So
plan to go and do a project together on the Grand Trunk Road, which never
yeah,
happened, sadly, due to the chance of both of us getting kidnapped.
yeah. So I decided that maybe Afghanistan. I kind of feel like maybe I should turn the page and maybe go someplace new. I kind of felt when I was there the last time that it was a bit of deja vu, and that had already kind of done what I was going to do there. It was time to kind of move on. So I hope that if things change and there's a peace that comes to Afghanistan, I'd love to go back and visit some of the places, see some old friends. I'd like to go back to Nuristan and
Lucky
go
man
over.
seeing
Yeah,
Nuristan. Oh, I'm very envious. Yeah.
that was back. That was back when it was still. There was a lot of original architecture and sculptures, and it was still in another kind of a place than it is now, which is really unfortunate what's happened there. So,
So
yeah,
take us slowly through. So you walked in from Pakistan. The Russians were already, the civil war was already on. The
yeah.
Mujahideen were, and I mean, a depressing scene. This is a beautiful country at war, innocents being killed. Did you get? I mean, did you get sort of emotionally attached to the story? Did you feel that you were bringing oxygen to this? Because
Oh,
initially the United States was not interested, was it? It was
yeah.
it wasn't an immediate thing that the US got involved and began supporting the Mujahideen, and you played a role in that story.
Yeah, to go from village to village at that time, and they had all been firebombed by helicopters, or they were all destroyed. I mean, dozens and dozens of villagers, and then I was in several skirmishes where people were killed, and you start to get really attached. There's friendships you develop. The hospitality there, is so incredible. I was staying in people's homes, and you could see how devastating this whole situation was to these farmers and shepherds. And I just wanted to go and continue to show this story, tell the story, hoping that people would somehow some relief could come and some help could come to this country. But it's going on now. That's now it's 40 years now,
Sure,
and there's kind of no end in sight. I mean, every time you think the story's coming to an end, you know,
it
another
just continues.
chapter,
Yeah.
and it's just people continue to, get killed, and now these car bombs and whatnot. It's just a sad place, and a place which I really love the Afghan people. They have such a great sense of humor often. They're so hospitable, and it's just so great to joke with them walking down the street. And they always say, "Oh, come in and have tea. Come in and have tea." And I always say, "I say only tea." I said, "Is there a kebab available?" I'd love the kebab. But then everybody breaks up, and it's a real icebreaker when you can joke with people and go in and sit down and have talk about whatever, explain who I am and where I'm from. And so I always loved my time in Afghanistan.
Talk a little bit about your process, Steve. In these days, presumably you're shooting on Kodachrome. You're using Olympus or Nikon? What SLRs? This is pre-digital photography. What's
Oh
your
yeah, well I switched from
talk a little bit
digital.
about the technicalities?
Well, I started with film, shot mostly Kodachrome 64. For 20 years, I have hundreds of thousands of, slides in Kodachrome. But back in about 2004, I switched over from film to digital, and I'm using now a Leica, which I think is probably the best camera I've ever used. And I love digital because you can shoot in such low light, and you can look at your picture, you can review, you can evaluate the composition, the light, the moment, And if you've missed something, you can always go back. And I remember shooting a picture.
Sure.
I remember shooting a picture in Afghanistan, which I thought, this is an amazing picture. This is great. This is really going to, make my career. And I went back 2 months later to look at the film, and they were all out of focus. All those pictures, what I thought were amazing, were all back focused.
I know
So,
that. I know that feeling very well.
yeah,
You're sitting in the dark room, or it's got some terrible scratch on the film, or
yeah,
some
exactly,
catastrophe is taking place.
yeah. So I'm a big fan of digital now.
In those days, what was your process? You'd take the stuff on the move, you'd develop it when you were back home, you'd send it back. How were you getting your films back from Afghanistan? Where were you developing? Getting back into Peshawar and developing it in the Pearl Continental, or what was
Yeah.
the
Well,
style?
the first trip was I took a bus from the border to Lahore, and then I took another bus to Rawalpindi, then another bus to Lahore, and I walked across the border with the film and got to Amritsar. I got a train in Amritsar to Delhi. I found some traveler who was flying back to New York. I gave the film.
Literally, you entrusted your precious Afghan
Yeah,
shots to a
yeah.
random stranger.
Well, it was kind of a friend of a friend of a friend, and got the film back. Had it processed. My sister had the film processed in Philadelphia, and that was the first time. Subsequently,
This is Bonnie, or
yes, my sister Bon. Yeah,
So we need to talk a little bit about Bonnie, because she seems to be the unspoken sort of backbone
yeah,
of the whole
yeah,
McCurry system.
yeah.
Tell
Well,
us a bit about Bonnie.
my sister, who is much smarter than I am, and was a school teacher for 35 years. She retired, and now we work together. I would say she's sort of my, kind of my CEO or my consigliere, or she's my advisor or whatever. And we work together. We do books together and exhibitions, and she kind of manages everything when I'm traveling, which is most of the time. So every day we talk on the phone 5, 10, 15 times, and so yeah, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you if it wasn't for my sister. And
yes, every time we've ever had any business discussions, it's always Bonnie takes control.
yeah, that's true. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, she's great. She's really
So,
great.
were you very much a darkroom man? Did you develop your own images and do your own color? Or what was your system in those days when you were using film?
I was, well, when I was working for the film, I was in a dark room. I had a dark room, and I developed a film, printed everything. But once I left for India, I started shooting almost exclusively in color. So
Much more difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just thought, I made that transition. Literally, when I got I took 200 rolls of Kodachrome on the plane to India. Of course, when I got through immigration into customs, they looked at all that film and thought I was a smuggler. They thought, why do you need so much film? And that was a bit of a challenge. So I just shifted to Kodachrome, and I went from being a black and white photographer to a color photographer almost overnight. But
and have never looked back. I mean, you're really known for your colors and your sense of color. And
well, India is so great in color. So much of the story of India is in color. If you look at the temples, a lot of the ceremonies, holy, and you go into temples. I mean, so much of the culture color is an integral part of I say Indian culture, more so than I would say in the U.S. or Europe.
As Diana Vreeland famously said, pink is the navy blue of India.
Yeah. You can say the same thing of Tibetan culture. Color in the monasteries is color is really is so important. So I'm a big life is in color. The world's in color. So to be more kind of authentic, and accurate. I think color is really more accurate, more genuine way of looking at the world. So I think I'm a big color fan.
You've also been the man who famously is a great perfectionist about touching up your pictures. I mean, there are some photographers who believe in leaving the photograph unchanged as it comes out of the film. You've always been a believer in editing and touching up and very unembarrassedly so, huh?
Well, I think everything I've known about retouching and post production, I was inspired by Ansel Adams, who said
A good teacher.
well, he said, the negative is the score and the print is the performance. And if you look at a lot of Ansel Adams' negatives, they're not that, they're a bit flat and undramatic. And through his craft and the way he was able to print these pictures, they really come alive. And a lot of the printing accounts to these sort of majestic scenes and the beauty, his interpretation of the negative. The same scene, it's just that they soar, this majesty, So I think that by, lightening and darkening and contrast in various ways, you can really, and focus in the eye, things can really take another dimension.
And do you very much oversee that yourself, even in the days before digital, when you were working with Kodachrome? Were you very much in charge of your own darkroom, so to speak?
Yeah, I was always. I didn't do it personally because it's too complicated.
Sure.
But I would kind of oversee somebody in my studio or somebody at the magazine. I remember in magazine photography, everything they would tweak everything. Certain areas of the picture would get darkened or lightened, or sometimes, especially with film, under tungsten light, everything was yellow and orange, and which isn't what the scene looked like at all. But on film, the film wasn't able to actually see it as it really was. So we had to kind of try and adjust for tungsten or for halogen or neon.
And with digital these days, when you're taking stuff now in the digital era, are you touching up yourself with Photoshop and so on, or what's your process?
Oh no, it's all. I have a technician and people in my studio who are very adept at that. I let them
do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So tell us about current projects. I mean, you've broken, I think, with National Geographic. Is that right? That you're no longer.
Well, I've decided that there's other things I want to do with my photography apart from working magazine photography. I kind of more want to do the projects that I want to do in the way that I want to do them. I'm more interested in books now, and I mean, with the little time I have left in this world, I want to just do exactly what I want to do, unless occasionally I'll do an advertising assignment or corporate assignment, which helps to pay the bills and whatnot. But what I love mostly now is to go to a place like, India or Cuba or China or wherever, and just shoot my kind of picture. And I can stay as long as I want or leave when I want, and I don't have to worry about a shopping list or an editor breathing down my neck with a deadline and saying, don't forget to do this, don't forget to do that, and we need a balanced story. So now I just do the pictures
as you wish,
way, and I don't have to try and second guess myself as to what the editor wants, what the magazine wants. So
we associate you particularly, obviously, with Afghanistan and India. But what are your other favorite places in the world? Cambodia. You've done some amazing work. Where else does your heart reside, or your eye reside?
Well, if somebody said, "I'm going to give you a round-the-world ticket," and you go exactly where you want, I think again, South Asia would be at the top of the list. I would, India, Nepal, Tibet, of course, Burma. I want to do a book on Burma sometime in the next few years.
If you need a
But
text for that, I'm very much up for it.
yeah, oh yeah, and I would still love to try and do that Grand Trunk Road. I'm not sure if we could go all the way to Kabul on that, but you know.
I was in
But
Peshawar a month ago, just before lockdown, and it's completely. I mean, it's not completely safe again, but it's pretty safe. That whole
okay,
area of Pakistan is now more peaceful than it's been in a decade.
and you were able to move around by yourself,
Yep,
and
and even staying in the Pearl Continental, which got so badly blown up a decade ago, it's
oh
reopened, and so I
yeah,
went to all, and now the museum there, that incredible museum with the with all that Gandharan sculpture, beautifully restored. It's one of the best museums in South Asia. So yeah, I think
oh
we could do it.
yeah, that'd be great. I spent, I think I spent months in Peshawar.
It's a great
Usually,
city. It's a
yeah,
great city.
yeah. It was. I always enjoyed it. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
And
And
so,
what,
other once all this lockdown is over, do you have somewhere you're bursting still to see? And
well, I've always wanted to go to Iran. Iran
you've
has
never
always
been?
been, never been there. I've tried to go. I have an exhibition there now, but I haven't been able to get a visa, and it's really disappointing because I have a lot of Iranian friends, and I did a lot of work in Afghanistan, of course, Pakistan, Turkey. I've worked in the region, but never been to Iran. So I'm really excited to go there. Hopefully one day. I'll even go to. I just
I
wanted to go
went.
there.
I went a couple of years ago, and again, it was very, very safe at the moment. It's the one place in the Middle East there is no conflict.
Yeah,
Uh, uh, and if only your wonderful president would leave it
yeah,
alone, I
yeah,
think there's every hope that yeah, that we'll see a change of regime there.
yeah. Well, let's see what happens after November the 3rd. Maybe things will change for the better.
What's November the 3rd? What's
That's the vote. That's the
the
presidential
election?
election. Yeah, and we'll see what happens at that point. But no, Iran is right at the top of my. I mean, I would love to go there. Not even to photograph. I just want to go there and meet people, travel around. Yeah, I'd be more than happy just to take my cell phone and photograph with that. If there's a problem with my, going there as a a photographer. But anyway, we'll see what happens. I think Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan,
Uzbekistan is amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
all those places. I would love to explore that area. Yeah.
Uzbekistan is incredibly easy now. It's just an hour and a half flight from Delhi. Don't even need a
Okay.
visa. It's
Oh,
fantastic.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
So
So that's on my list.
it's definitely McCurry Central.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how is a man like you, who spends so much time moving and who is such a travel-oriented guy, how are you surviving cabin fever and lockdown?
Well, I think it's a couple things. First of all, I'm working with my people in my studio. Again, we're working on various projects, working on another book now, some exhibitions.
What's the next book?
The next book is a collection of pictures from travels, mostly in Southeast Asia, South Asia, and a couple exhibitions. We're working on about 3 books simultaneously, but this next book is kind of the deadline is coming up in 2 or 3 weeks. Hopefully, it'll be printed in Italy in July. But the other thing I'm doing here is I'm with my wife and my 3-year-old daughter, and my daughter really keeps us on our feet. You have what, three daughters?
Yeah, my kids and I've grown up. The idea
Yeah,
of having a 3-year-old would sound
yeah.
exhausting.
No, it's great fun. We have so much fun. It's just amazing. She's right now learning to read, and so now she can go through the books and identify words and speak phrases. It's really quite an exciting time, and she's very physical. We go swimming and go in the park, even now, you know. So, no, it's great. So, in a way, it's to have this sort of found time.
This is since we last met in Jaipur. This whole new
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the
whole
literary
new lease
festival.
of your life.
Yeah. By the way, is that your literary festival still going strong?
Well, I mean, now we're online. We had a big session last night with the writer Rob McFarlane. We're doing like this, a lot of digital stuff, but
Yeah.
we hope we'll be back in January.
Yeah, that was exciting. I really enjoyed that festival when we were there together. I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, or whenever it was.
It was fantastic. Yeah, 4 years ago. 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Continuing to work online, and then playing, and then just trying to get ready for when we break out of this. I have an assignment in Asia. It's kind of a more corporate assignment. So hopefully we'll be able to get to Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Hong Kong when it becomes safe.
Are you anticipating being able to travel this year? Do you think it's going to be possible to move around internationally before the end of the year, or are you basically cancelling all your plans for 2020?
No, I'm hoping to get out this summer. Maybe June would be nice. I'm doing a workshop. I'm doing a workshop in Rome in August, which is full. Nobody's canceled. We're going to go full speed ahead. So
really,
that's kind of exciting. And then I have a exhibition in France, and so no, I'm fully intending to when this thing lifts, or when it's safe. Of course, there's no vaccine yet, but when it seems safe to travel, I'll be out the door as soon as possible.
As quickly as you can.
Yeah.
Your daughter should treasure her moments with her dad before.
Well, we travel together. My daughter's been to about 35 countries. We've been to all over Europe. She's been to the Arctic. She's been to Easter Island. She's been to India, Thailand.
Easter Island.
Oh yeah, we've been all over the world. So when I go to Asia, we're going to go together, and yeah. So it's going to be hopefully.
Where's her mum from?
She's Hopi. She's from. She grew up in San Diego.
Oh, really?
She's Hopi. Yeah. So we're actually not that far from the Hopi. I guess you'd call it reservation. Just a few hours from here. So we go up there periodically. So yeah.
Are we going to see a Native American project? Is that going to be a future McCurry?
Yeah, we've tried that. We've thought about that. It's actually a bit difficult. They're a little bit reluctant to be photographed. I've been to some of their ceremonies, which are incredible, but no photographs, no pictures, nothing, yeah. Zero, nothing. And it's just a policy. So I don't think that's going to be happening. Maybe there could be something else. No, I don't think so. But yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Okay,
guys, so we've got the last 10 minutes of this. So anybody that's got any questions, please put them up on the feed now. Anything you want to ask, Steve? Steve, I don't know whether you can see all the questions that are coming up, but incredible multinational range of fans you have. I've never seen a more international online group than the McCurry fan club. It's ranging from Brazil to Indonesia, lots of Turks, Malaysia, Russians, Italians.
Yeah. Yeah,
fantastic.
Italy is one of my loves. I've been to Italy so many times. Italy is kind of a one-stop shopping for everything. Food, the culture, the art, the people, the landscape. It's one of my favorite places to travel to.
It's a European version of India, I always feel. The mother complexes, traffic jams, beautiful women, local schools of art, great food. And same geography, a peninsula sticking out into the sea, Sicily and Sri Lanka as counterparts. It's
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. Yeah. So
And the next big book, what we've had India, we've had Afghanistan, we've had animals. What's the next big book project?
well, this book I'm doing is going to be more of a kind of a poem, I would say, to Southeast Asia, and some of the other places I've loved to travel to. So it's more
A kind of greatest hits or a
kind of the
favorite
greatest hits, I would
places?
say.
Yeah.
Especially, it's mostly unpublished work, pictures which have not been seen and haven't been in books or exhibitions. So it's really more of a kind of an unpublished, unseen
How
collection.
does that process work? You just get your old negatives digitally online and go through them and suddenly notice there's something which you
Yeah,
haven't spotted before? Or
yeah. It's just there's so many pictures that I have that often you overlook pictures. You come back to your work years later and you start seeing things that you had overlooked. Often pictures get passed over for one reason or another. So this is a way to go back and review the work, look at the work again in a different way, and just it's been a pleasure to go through, I guess, more than 40 years of
whoa.
work. Hey, by the way, Will, I would love to, you actually are a pretty decent photographer yourself. And
You're
I
very
just want
kind,
to say,
Steve.
you need to stay in your lane, my friend, because some of them are just too good to be taken by a writer.
I just use a cell phone. It's no competition, Steve. Don't
No,
worry.
I'm joking. No, but you have done some really outstanding pictures.
Thank you.
I'm really
Thank you. That's
very
made my
impressed.
day. So a question's just come up. What's your advice for photographing people? Do you have a method when you're approaching strangers? Do you just have a brass neck and just go up and say hello, or what's the technique?
Well, I think you have to. I think if you see somebody on the street that you're fascinated with or you want to meet, you literally just have to go up and introduce yourself, and just you have to be wherever you happen to be in the world. You just have to. It's just you're related to these people, just whoever they are, and you can't be standoffish. You have to jump in. You have to have a sense of humor. I always think that smiling and joking and whatnot, even joking about yourself, is a way to break the ice. And I think you got to have that personal touch, and you can't stand off with a long lens. You have to get in there, look at people in the eye. You have to be able to exhibit confidence, and you have to be able to just be, take control of the situation and try and slow everything down. People tend to get very self-conscious. I mean, if you walk up to somebody on the street, it's a bit of a shock. It's a bit of a embarrassment. They're kind of like, who are you and what do you? But if you can kind of work through that, and
Do you always seek permission if you're taking someone? Do you
oh yeah,
ask them first? Yeah.
yeah, always ask, always, and there's that embarrassed, self-conscious moment. If you can kind of slow everything down, sometimes I just kind of play with the camera. I look away. I kind of just, and then they have to trust that you're, kind of a good person, and that your intentions, if you're going to take somebody's time, they have to believe that this is worth their while, and that in some cases they're just curious. So you have to kind of understand that you have this gift for a minute or two, and you have to work quickly. And sometimes I'll show them the picture. I'll explain who I am, where I'm from, and what I'm doing. But once you've kind of gained their confidence and you relax the situation, I think wonderful things can happen. It's like, going in just a few seconds, breaking the ice and becoming a kind of a friendly presence and whatnot. So I think it's there's no secret. It's just trying to relax people, be genuine, be honest about what you're doing, and get something that's really authentic and true to who they are.
And equipment, you mentioned you're now using a Leica. You were, I think, associated with Nikon for much of your career, weren't
That's
you?
right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
But the Leica lens has won it over for you, or what's
Yeah, there's
the?
actually for me, there's really no comparison. It's I was a bit shocked when I looked at them side by side and saw what I could achieve with the Leica. And once I saw that I was working on a much higher level, I decided that this
What
was
sort of format is it? Is it one of these small Leicas again,
yeah, it's like an
Cartier-Bresson used to use? And
yeah, it's an SL2. It's just like an old yeah. Well, it's not a single lens reflex. It's I mean, sorry, it is a single lens reflex. It's not a rangefinder. So it's the same principle. You look through the, but so it's not dramatically different than any other camera.
it's amazing how many of the great photographers have ended up with Leicas. Robert Capa, Cartier-Bresson.
Oh,
They love
Robert
the
Frank. Yeah.
smallness of it, exactly, and
Yeah.
it's like guerrilla photography.
Yeah. No, it's a great tool. I mean, I just wish I had been using it, 20 or 30 years ago. I wish I'd had digital photography 30 or 40
20 years ago, exactly.
Yeah.
Steve, I think we've run out of time, but you've got 1,200 fans of yours live. So is there a last thing you want to say to them before we close this down?
Well, life is short. Enjoy your time and photograph. There's nothing like practice. And the other thing is do yourself get some of Willie Dalrymple's books. It's a great read. One of the great historians. And
thank you, sir.
And also the travel books are amazing. So that's and his pictures are not half bad either.
You're very kind, Steve. I should send you a check in the post.
Okay, it's a pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Always
Good
a pleasure.
luck. I hope the lockdown ends soon and we get you back on the road.
We'd love that. All the
and
best.
You've got to go to Iran. You've got to go, whatever Mr. Trump says.
Fingers crossed. Thanks.
All right.
Always a pleasure.
Bye-bye, Steve. Thank you so
bye-bye.
much.
Thank you. Bye.